Hello, I want to talk about space and how to code space, like margin, padding, border, width, height, centering stuff. And so I'm going to sneakily use Figma because I'm going to be teaching you more about Figma, but I'm going to use it today to show you. I'm going to make a thing about 1440 just because it's a good size. I want the fill to be white. FFF is white. And then I'm gonna peg that down, and then I'm gonna say, okay, so I have an image or I have text. Actually, let's do both. So I'm gonna say, here's my text, and it's a beautiful poem, and I'm gonna frame it or whatever. And then over here, I have a beautiful portrait of my Aunt Lucy. And here she is in all of her glory. She's so pretty. Okay, maybe she has curly hair. Okay, so with these two lovely, lovely images, I want to frame them. So the box that like the kind of like when you're making a paragraph or anything, a section, HTML is all about boxes, right? So if this was like, say, a paragraph, it would be, if we visualize the box, it would start out being a very, very like tight box. It would not allow, let me put a stroke on there. There we go. It would not, come on. Rectangle, where's my other rectangle? I lost it. Okay, I'll try again. Okay, here's our content box. It has no fill. It has a stroke. Okay, let's make sure. Okay, cool. So here is the content box. It's super tight, and we want to have space between the content and something else. Like, you know, we're in this case we want to add basically a mat board. So the mat board part of this picture is called padding. So if I add another box here, and I turn off, let's see, turn on stroke, and I turn off fill. That's basically representing our padding. And just like with a picture frame, you could totally have like no padding on top, no padding on bottom, more padding on left and right. You can kind of control each side how you would. And then outside the padding is the option for a border. So you can have a border or not, just like you can have padding or not. But in this case, I'm going to just have everything. So I'm just going to give it a big fat border. I must have like put... Anyway, I'm going to keep going. So I don't know why there's like a transparency thing happening. Linear, inside. Okay. So there's our border. So basically what's left over is margin, and what margin is the space between these two elements. So if I have this picture, which also has padding and a border, I'll give it another border of 10. So, and I want these things not to be butted up against each other. I want to space them out on my wall. That's margin. So in between these two spaces, that's what I'm talking about. Margin, right? So a little recap. This part is padding. This thing, I'll just put text right in here and say this part is content. And then border is pretty self-explanatory because it's the same both places. And then this part is margin. So remember that margin is the space between. And if you have something that's like white on white on white, it will almost always be, you'll want to use margin. There are always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, if color is not involved, then margin. Start with margin and then maybe switch to padding. Okay, so let's make some code. I am going to just put this in my home page. I'll just make a new directory called, I need to put it in video demos. And then inside there, I'll I'll just make a new folder called space. And you are also welcome to create along with me at home or whatever, or later on. It's just good practice to code as much as possible. So, okay, so I'm gonna also need CSS. So I'm gonna say new folder, CSS, and then that inside there, I keep right clicking. That's how I'm getting this menu to pop up. So CSS, new file, style.css. Okay, here we go. So index.html. Now that it has this was it suffix file extension of .html, Emmet will work. So I can say exclamation point, and that'll give me that boilerplate HTML, so I don't have to remember all that stuff. I can I'll just type in space, and then I'm gonna sort of format my page real quick. I think I'm just going to put everything in one big main tag, including header. Generally, header goes above main, but we'll just put it here because we're rebels and we do whatever we want. Oops, I'm typing too much. Okay, so inside header, I'm going to make a paragraph, and I'm going to, let's just do some Lorem Ipsum because I don't want this video to be a million years old. So I'll do that one again. So if you have Emmet working, all you have to do is type the word lorem, and as you can see, it doesn't even care if it's uppercase or lowercase. And then without any space after, type in the number that you want. So I can say 40, and that'll give me 40 words of Lorem Ipsum text, which is this sort of generic placeholder text. Sorry, my dogs are barking. That fills in so that your clients aren't like, I don't like the wording on the 5th paragraph in the blah, blah, blah. So Lorem Ipsum is like, it's Greek, I can't read it. So they look at how it's placed and how the typography looks instead of focusing on the words. Okay, back from that non sequitur. Let's look at this beautiful website design. I'm gonna close this and reopen. Okay, went over on the wrong thing, so I'm going to bring it over here. Okay, lovely, hooray! So let's do some exciting stuff. First, I think I want to give, I'm going to give main some color and let header sit on top of it. And I'll show you why. So here's main. I'm going to give it a background color of, let's see if it'll pop something. I'm just gonna like get a color so that I can get this box, so then I can choose a different color, maybe. Come on. All right, I'm gonna have to guess. Dang it. Oh, what's a good, I'll use some HTML colors. I need something really, really light, like a powder blue. Okay, that'll be fine. All right, so main has background color powder blue. Let's see how ugly that looks. Refresh. Oh, haha, it's not working because I haven't linked the files yet. So let's go do that. In index.html, I am going to say link and then tab. That's going to give me this relationship of style sheet and the href. So I am right here. I want to go into CSS and into style.css. So I just need to say CSS/style.css. And now let's check it out, see if that works. Okay, beautiful. Oh, and then, okay, so one thing is that I want main to take up the whole screen. So I'm going to say width, or actually no, I want to do height, colon, and then I'm going to say 100, and I can use percent. And let's take a look. It's not working because it doesn't know what 100% of. The body, when there's anything in it, really is like kind of, it stops right below this. So I want to try a new value, and that is VH for viewport height. So what this is going to do is it's going to make the height of this box the entire height of the viewport. and hopefully, therefore, making the whole background blue. Let's try it. All right, voila. So have you noticed something else? Why is there this like annoying space around everything? Main is the only tag we have. Well, it turns out that with default HTML, the browser adds this annoying space. So let's take a look. And also part of it might actually be that the paragraph has an annoying like built-in margin top. So let's inspect. And how I can figure this out is if I go in here and I mouse over main, main seems okay. It's doing its thing. If I go over body though, see that orange? That orange means that there is margin. So orange is margin, padding is green. If you ever forget, there's this like handy little thing. So body has like this annoying margin built in the user. So if it says user agent style sheet, you know that means it's like built into HTML by default. So we can just get rid of that. I'm going to add a style for body. And oops, I'm going to say margin 0. So that'll get rid of part of the problem. The other part, so now body doesn't have any margin. Where's that margin coming from? So let's keep drilling down now that this is so small. Header seems fine. And there we go. Paragraph, bam. Paragraph has a margin of like 1em, which is the height of this text right now. So that also sucks. But instead, let's we'll take a look at that in a second because we're going to be kind of moving this down anyway. Okay, so for the header, I want to basically scrunch it so that this text gets scrunched down with it. And the reason is because in the header, I may have something else in there. So like there's a paragraph, but what if I also have like a button and the button call to action. So and we have this button. We want all this stuff to line up to the left. We could go through and say, okay, well, give this like a margin left of blah, 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 and the same margin left here. It gets to be a nightmare because actually your margins you're gonna want them to be different depending on how wide your screen is, right? So if your screen is 2600 pixels wide and you want margin like a margin things to be like centered, you can't eyeball it because it's constantly changing. So how do you deal? In header, we're gonna try that margin auto trick. So for style, I'm going to say header, and then for header, I'm going to give it a width of let's do 70%. So you can do actual pixel size. I don't recommend it if you want to have a responsive page that stretches and shrinks like you want it. Percentage is really your friend. But a lot of, depending on what it is, you may also need to use the pixel size. And then that other value that I showed you was this viewport height. There's also a viewport width. So actually, instead of 70%, we could say 70 of the viewport width. So 70 VW. So let's try that. So now it's smushed over to the left. And if I was to give it a border, we could see that. 1 pixel solid, black, not that space. So that's basically what our header is doing. But if we try that margin trick, margin auto, we will get our text centered. And we can also add some top margin. There are other ways of centering things within. Oops, see how the margin is not helping us right now? Let's change it. So instead of using margin, let's use padding. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to get rid of this and let that be auto because I figured out that actually fixed that problem we had before. And now I'm going to say padding dash top 60 pixels. And we'll just see. Okay, so I'm glad I still have the border on. So this is basically the size of the header. The content box, there's no border around it, but it basically is what encloses this text. And then between the content box and the top of the header, that's that padding. So yeah. And then if we turn off this border, and it actually looks like it's, fairly centered. I think I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to show you a cool trick to center your content within that 100 viewport height. Okay, so on to part 2.